Uh, I was going to comment on something else, but it's impossible for me to ignore the events in the Oval Office earlier today. It's stunning. I think anybody watches this saw it, and I'm torn for an explanation. But there's something clear. There's an expression here in South Louisiana. It's not totally true, but it's you mostly hear it from black people, and they'll say that boy ain't right, and if somebody's obviously having some kind of a personality disorder or whatever. Well, when you look at Trump, the first thing that comes to your mind that boy ain't right. And we've seen so much, and we've gotten so hoo-ha, and all of the crazy things that he does.
In the news this week, I mean, we thought when the Ukraine war started, Putin would be isolated. He's not isolated. He had the BRICS nation. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now 4 or 5 other countries. It's about half the world's population, about 35% of the GDP. He's got North Korean troops in his war in Ukraine now. He's very chummy with China. China and Russia always hated each other, not anymore, and Iran. These are the dictator countries. There's a very World War II feeling here when the dictator countries are getting together. I mean, in World War II, what did Hitler and the Japanese have in common? Nothing, except they saw the world one way, fascism. They all have to do it in their different way. Iran is a fascist country in their own way. So is China, so is Russia, Saudi Arabia, you could say also. Somehow, the world seems to be dividing between the good guy countries, the democratic countries, and these autocracies. And if your guy gets in, we're going to be on the wrong side of this.
In this video, James Carville takes off his mask and confronts the reality of Donald Trump's undeniable mental and physical collapse, a reality that Bill Maher and far too many others find difficult to fully embrace. Maher normally portrays Trump's chaos as a predicted but ridiculous part of the political drama. Even though he often calls attention to it, Carville doesn't play that game. He makes it clear that what happened in the Oval Office was not just another wacky Trump moment, but rather a concerning example of actual cognitive and physical decline, going far beyond eccentric conduct. James goes one step further and questions directly why the media, including Maher, emphasizes all of Joe Biden's errors while blatantly ignoring Trump's warning indicators. He blames Maher, the pundits, and the enablers for their cooperation in minimizing what is clearly a severe deterioration in one of the most influential people in the world. This isn't the place for partisan shots. When we notice the warning, signs of failure, we must hold leaders accountable. Carville maintains that we need to start addressing Trump's craziness as the serious threat that it is, rather than brushing it off. According to Carville, if Maher wants to reveal dysfunction, he should be ready to do the same to Trump without compromising or softening the damage.
I'm not going to concede that I'm just asking questions. I'm just making an observation that everyone saw. We know that boy ain't right. We know that. We saw it. And we know that even in the world of Trumpian standards, the kind of oxymoron to say Trumpian standards, but we know this represents a significant deterioration. And I think we owe to ourselves to question very deeply as to, and I see this, all these stories. Jake Tapper's got a new book out about President Biden and who saw the fact that he had lost a step or two in the cognitive area. I don't know. I mean, but that's the kind of question people start to ask. But my question is, who in the White House or around Trump, because they have to know. I mean, we saw it. They have to see that madness, just knowing the way things operate, and you know the way things operate, before something manifests itself in a venue like the Oval Office, in a place with all this. This didn't happen out of the blue. You know, a lot of times you hear.
All right, let's talk about what James Carville described and why Bill Maher needs to pay attention. Trump's fall from grace in the White House wasn't handled like any other news story by Carville. He described it as magnificent, terrifying, and much more than Trump's usual chaos. Even though Maher likes to joke about Trump's lunacy, Carville wasn't laughing, which is where things become interesting. He was serious about it. He is not blaming Trump's irrationality for this. He is drawing attention to clear, detrimental signs of physical and mental decline. Carville goes much deeper now. He points to Trump's bad diet, sleep deprivation, high levels of stress, and advanced age of 80. However, he's not just saying these things for laughs, he is warning us. And the worst is yet to come. The media, Bill Maher, and, to be honest, all of us have become used to it, he says. For us, the insanity has become the standard. How is Maher involved in this? He likes to draw attention to dysfunction. He has no problem pointing out the errors of others or criticizing Biden's age. But Carville is basically urging people like Maher to stop laughing at Trump's lunacy and to think about whether he is mentally and physically fit to be in a position of command. Carville is right, to be honest. Although the circus is not new, we have all become accustomed to it. There is a deterioration happening right in front of us. Maher and the others need to quit laughing it off and start referring to it as what it is before it's too late.
My guy gets in. I think we'll go back to the time that we had when he was president, which is the only time we didn't start a war and get involved in a war. Did Putin?
That's not true.
Did Putin?
Jimmy Carter never fired a shot.
Putin did not invade Ukraine until Biden took over. We had the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, which projected weakness through the world. People understood that we were enfeebled, and that is what was provocative. Weakness is provocative.
I feel like
Trump destabilized these people. They didn't know what to expect of him. Next thing you know, he's bombing Soleimani. Trump did strategic strikes that had people on their heels. They didn't know what he might do to them. And we did not have Putin invade
It's what he might do to
Ukraine.
us that I'm a little more worried about. I feel like
We've had 4 years of Trump. We've had 4 years of Trump.
Yeah.
Trump did not go after his
what?
political enemies with the Department of Justice.
Right.
That was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Well, we had Hitler in the 30s and things were okay, and then we had Hitler in the 40s and they got way worse. Just because we had him.
He hid his Hitlerism the first 4 years, and it's going to come out in full force.
He tried to do things like that. He tried to do dictatorial fascist things, and he was stopped.
Joe Biden has flouted the law when it comes to these student loan giveaway programs. He's flouted the law. Supreme Court opinions that told him he didn't have the right to do it, and he openly said, I will get around the Supreme Court. He did it with respect to rent abatement programs, the same exact thing. And then he and Kamala Harris unleashed this Department of Justice against their political enemy, Donald Trump, their #1 chief rival for the presidency.
Okay. Well,
Is it funny? Because they did it.
We'll see.
You want to talk fascism? That's fascist.
You see, I've been saying it for years. Donald Trump was no ordinary politician who pretended to be a self-centered millionaire. Rather, he was taking a tentative step into the realm of tyranny. But in this case, there are a lot of brown shirts in the pool. If you pay attention to the warning signs, which were present from the beginning, it's obvious. Seeing the Constitution as a Yelp review that he could change, he messed with elections, sided with tyrants, and attacked the media. The question, is it really that bad? Kept coming up. Yes, it was truly that terrible. It's not paranoia if they are actually undermining democracy in front of you. Authoritarianism's drawback is that it isn't very noticeable. It slowly infiltrates under the guise of strong leadership and telling the truth. With half of the population binge-watching Netflix and the other half supporting it like it's WrestleMania, Trump's presidency was a good example of how easily a country can slide into totalitarianism. But the acculturation of the people to it is really remarkable. Every week there were fresh scandals, attacks on the rule of law, and attacks on basic decency, and we just adjusted to them. The noise subsided into the distance. Now, what did Trump do? He called the media the people's enemy, threatened violence, and even suggested postponing the election. Now, as Trump's behavior grows more erratic, like a drunken uncle on Thanksgiving, we're told to treat it as entertainment. But this isn't just one man's downfall, it's the cost of unchecked power. Fascism doesn't always arrive with a marching band. It can slip in wearing a suit, holding an upside-down Bible, and tweeting at 3.
Usually there are indications. I cannot not believe that there were not indications to people around Trump that there had been a significant, and for all I know, maybe sudden deterioration. But as we go forward, we're going to keep exploring I don't want to call it a syphilis diagnosis, because I'm certainly not able, I'm not qualified or trained to diagnose anything, much less syphilis. But we got to do a little research here, and we got to see, does this fit an overall explanation? Would this, or the mental issues that come in, I don't know if it's tertiary or secondary syphilis. I'm really not schooled enough, or all I know it could be gonorrhea. I mean, but there's some possibility that we have watched the effects of the latent STD, I guess called sexually transmitted disease. But I'll be looking at your comments, and if you think I'm totally off base, you're not going to hurt my feelings, because I'm just doing this kind of without consultation, but I'm just asking questions. And, that's why we have our democracy, or at least until now, we have our First Amendment rights, because we're able to ask questions. And my question is this: could this dramatic event, this deterioration, this unlike any other event in history, could there be a scientific explanation for why it happened?
What do people think about these recent incidents involving Trump? As James Carville stated, do you think that something far more serious and concerning is happening here? Or do you think this is simply another headline in a long series of tumultuous events? Is the media paying enough attention to this? Or are too many people still brushing it off as Trump being Trump? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you don't want to miss out on the hottest celebrity news, make sure to subscribe to Daily Finder.